Thank you. I have only 7 minutes, so I need my notebook to say everything I need to tell you. So it's great to be here, Kuba and Alicia. Thank you for the invitation. It's actually, being on this stage is actually an important stage in our common journey that we started almost a year ago, related to solutions journalism. I will just quickly say what we do at Ashoka. So Ashoka is a network of social innovators and social entrepreneurs. Basically what we do is we look for people who have new ideas answering old problems or new problems. Sometimes these are new problems created by new inventions or new developments. So I don't have time to tell you about those new ideas, and there is not enough time to talk about them because we have more than 3,500 people like this in over 85 countries. So lots of stories. But these stories like range from rats discovering landmines, for example, or people with visual disabilities saving people from cancer. Lots of stories. We have several new ideas around journalism in our network. And when I say we have, it means that we as Ashoka were able to find and support people who implement those ideas. So one idea that I wanted to quickly mention is implemented by an incredible Romanian Ashoka Fellow, Paul Radu, who is using something that I call a non-digital blockchain to tackle crime and corruption. So what is non-digital blockchain? It's basically you ask Paul Radu, well, you write all those stories, how come you're still alive? And he says, well, you know what? Because there are 300 of us. So you can kill Paul Radu, but there is 299 people who know the same thing. Well, it's difficult to kill 300 people. I mean, it's doable. We know that from history. But it's more difficult to do it silently. So there are also people that you can actually meet here. There is Jeremy Drucker, who does a lot of things to support journalism in Central and Eastern Europe. He is our only Brooklyn-born Czech Ashoka Fellow, because he was elected in Czech Republic. Recently, he uses crowdfunding to support independent journalism in places where independent journalism is in danger, which sounds like almost everywhere. But if you want to talk to Jeremy about that, you can talk to him. You can also talk to Jeremy about implementing solutions journalism in Hungary, in Slovakia, and in Czech Republic, because together with Ashoka, Jeremy's organization, Transitions Online, does it also in those countries. In Poland, we actually decided to bring the idea of solutions journalism together with Outriders. And the reason why we thought we would not do it ourselves as Ashoka is because we are not journalists. We are not experts in, well, some of us are experts in storytelling, but that's not journalism. And, you know, we know that we cannot tell journalists how to do journalism. But what we saw, and this is actually pretty important, what we saw was that solutions journalism was very important. Not because it's a cool new idea. It's important because it's about telling the whole story. So at Ashoka, you know, being busy with looking for new ideas and new solutions, there is one thing that you see every day, that every time there is a problem, there is a person or two persons who try to solve it. And that's a fact. It's not just something, it's not an ideal, imagine all the people kind of stuff. It's a fact. Those people may not be successful. They can work small scale, but they are there. And it's very important to talk about them. And the reason why it's important to talk about them is not because, again, the world would be better if we all hugged each other and be nice to each other. I mean, it would be. But that's not what I'm going to talk about. The reason why it's important to talk about those solutions is about the image of the world that you give to your readers and your viewers and your listeners. And if you give the real image, or you give the exciting, interesting, attention-attracting image. Because if you, I don't want to do any finger pointing, But even if you look at the titles in the host writing competition, they are pretty depressive titles. They are titles about bad things, things that went wrong. And if you give this kind of image to people, how will they feel? What is their sense of agency? Well, their sense of agency and influence and what they can do in the world is exactly like the slide that I decided to use today. That's how they feel. And if they feel like this, they need a leader. They need someone who will tell them what to do. They need someone who will tell them how things are. And we have those guys in our countries. They are waiting there. The populists are waiting for people who feel disempowered. And people feel disempowered if they don't have hope. And if we don't show them the fighters who fight every day to try to tackle the problems, they will be discouraged and the populists will flourish. So this is a great mission, and the reason why we decided to implement solutions journalism in Poland is exactly because of that. Because we know that those solutions exist, because we know that those sometimes very lonely heroes and their teams do their fight every day. They are not supported. And you know, because we don't tell those stories, or because we don't know to tell them in an exciting way, people, when they see them, they go like, oh, he has to have some special interest for doing this. Oh, he's making money on doing this. I am sure that all those NGOs, you know, there is a lot of money coming, usually from foreign spies. We know that narrative, right? So it's very important also to make people know that those solutions happen, because then when those solutions happen close to them, maybe they will be more friendly. Not immediately, obviously, but maybe a little bit. Maybe the life of social innovators will be a little bit easier. And it's a very tough life. We also see it. We have 3,500 examples that helping solve social problems is not unicorns and rainbows. It's a very difficult, tough job that you really have to be dedicated to do. And you have to have lots of skills that would actually allow you to earn a lot of money if you decided to have a different story of your life. But those people decide to do this, and we thought, okay, we want to promote solutions journalism in Poland. We want to have more stories about Polish changemakers and people who actually solve problems. One thing we knew is we really don't like parachuting, and we don't like idea parachuting, and we especially don't like Western ideas parachuting. So when someone comes from Western countries and tells us, now, wild people, we will tell you how to do this. This is a stereotype. There are lots of things that we can learn from the West, right? There are also lots of things that we do quite well. So we thought, okay, we are going to bring lots of people who believe in solutions journalism, like Tina, for example. But what we will ask them to do is to get into a dialogue, in a discussion with local journalists, not to tell them this is solutions journalism and that's how you do it, but to sit with them and say, hey guys, I think this is a good idea. Do you think this would work here? What should we do to make it work? So we had 4 people visiting us. We had David Boardman from Solutions Journalism Network. We now are super happy to host Tina Rosenberg. We also had Samantha and Nina from US and from France. We had 3 workshops. We had actually 2 workshops in 2 newsrooms around solutions journalism. But again, these workshops were a lot of discussing and talking. We also had meetings with journalism professors at SWPS University who were very interested in this idea. So we started kind of, showing that there is this concept and maybe we could think of a Polish version of it. One thing that we are going to have a workshop tomorrow around solutions journalism, and I understand that those of you who will come will get to know a little bit more about what this means in practice and how to do it. We have funded 3 stipends to journalists, Polish journalists, so that they write 3 stories. And a historic moment will happen tomorrow, because the first story will be published at Outriders website. So you really want to go there and see this story. There will be also 2 other stories, which will be the first stories in Polish on solutions journalism. But on Outriders, you can also see, you know, videos, pictures, and stuff. So even if you don't speak Polish, you want to see it. One last thing, we noticed that one important thing when we talk about doing good journalism is money. So we are now working on Solutions Journalism Fund. And we are trying to raise money to be able to fund more stipends. And hopefully, next year, when we all meet at Outriders Summit, and you will obviously bring at least 2 more journalists with you, we will also be able to tell you that we have 100 stories in Polish, we have 100 stories in Czech, we have 100 stories in Hungarian, in Romanian, in Slovak, and that actually this has become a movement, not only as singular examples of interesting stories on solutions that are there. I hope this is interesting.